I'm Tatiana Antonella Bella, founder of Goumbook, and you're listening to Forward Talks, conversations that matter. This is a bonus episode continuing my conversation with Tanzeed Alam, Managing Director at Earth Matters, as we close out our special series on COP28 in partnership with Mastercard and with the support of the Dubai Government Media Office. If you haven't heard part 1, where we talk about the outcomes of COP28, you'll find that in your podcast app right before this one. On this bonus episode, Tanzeed tells me about his experience with youth at COP28, and we share our thoughts on how to involve and educate the next generation to be more involved in climate action. I think what was great to see at this COP was the green zone being flooded by youth, by students, by individuals coming to learn more about energy transition, about innovations, and all the pavilions were filled with visitors. And I feel the role of COP to, really engage with the wider community on how they can change their behavior and be part of the action is fundamental.
No, definitely. And, on the 11th of December, this is the first day after the schools broke up for the festive holidays. I don't know if it was foolish, but I felt tired from it. But I took out a group of friends and their kids to COP. We did a little tour of the green zone, and kids all ages. My kids were there. It was aged between kind of 8, 9 through to like 16, 17-year-olds with their parents. So there was a group of like 40 of us. And I felt like a tour guide. I had to like wave stuff in the air to get them moving and made a little itinerary around the green zone. And I don't know if you went to the escape room. Did
Yes.
you do the WWF escape room? I thought that was really fun. And poor ladies who was kind of running that, they suddenly looked really scared that there was a group of 40 kids descending on them to go into the escape room.
Wow.
And bless them, they did great. And the kids were really excited about getting involved there. And they came out going, yes, we escaped in 10 seconds. We solved it. And, filling in and that was like real engagement and education in action with kids. There was a lot of cool stuff happening for them. There's a lot of walking.
Yeah.
As well. And, I feel like health-wise, it was good as well to get your steps
walking,
in.
Finally.
And the kids, it was interesting asking, one of the things I did for all the kids at the beginning, I did a little talk for them and I just asked them, well, who knows what is a COP? And there was a 10-year-old boy who answered it really well.
Oh.
And I was like, okay, learning good stuff at school. But getting them to understand the significance of why this is important for them was missing, I felt. And it was only through, they know obviously about climate change and how it's impacting people, but what it means for them as they grow up and how the world might be different for them. It's a message of hope and fear. It's a bit of both because we are at an uncertain period right now of how quickly will that transition happen to clean energy, to net zero. Is it going to be fast enough to avert the worst impacts? Or are they going to live in a world where the worst impacts are happening and we eventually get to net zero due to loads of offsets in the last 10 years before 2050? So they may face a very different world. And I found it, to a 10-year-old, I found it hard to actually, I don't know if this is bad to say it this way, to be fully honest about how bad the impacts could be. Because I didn't want them to feel disempowered by it. I kind of focus more on, okay, well, there might be really cool opportunities for you to work in an area instead of thinking, how do I go to space? How do I, leave
this planet?
Yeah. How do I create kind of nuclear fusion that doesn't create any waste and that solves all of our energy problems, for example? How do I create the next type of battery that doesn't require lithium or other rare earth minerals? That's scaled up, how do I, so it's things like that appeal to like a budding engineer or a scientist or, but I couldn't bring myself to say, well, what if sea levels rise by 9 meters because Greenland and the West Antarctic ice sheet are going to melt by the time you're my age? I couldn't say that.
By personal experience, I would tell you not to say that.
Yeah.
Just because it's like when you go to the movies, right?
Yeah.
You have some movies that can be seen up to 10 years old, 13
Yeah.
years old. You have the PG.
Yeah, true.
And I think we need to consider climate education that is the same way. We need to make sure we give the right amount of information at the right age,
Yeah.
because there is a phenomenon called climate eco-anxiety,
Yeah.
where you have youth being really depressed and feeling powerless, where they don't see themselves playing any role or having any possibility of a future. I've heard young kids here in the UAE saying they don't want to have children, because not mainly because they don't want, but they don't think it should be a right thing to do to have children. This is quite important, I would say, and we need to address it. So definitely, I think there's a level of how we communicate on it. I feel the UAE has done a great move by including a green curriculum in schools that not only is addressed to the students, but also to the teachers. And when we talk about education, I think it's important to talk about education for all, not for the youth only, because our generation still has a lot to do in terms of decision making. We can do a lot, and it would be unfair to ask a 10-year-old to do something because he's still in school. He needs to enjoy that. It's important for his well-being, for his mental health. So let's educate the people who at the moment are in the position to actually do something. This COP had the first ever green education hub. We were part of it as Goumbook. We had 3 stands there, and we saw over 56,000 people visiting. It was so great to have to, talk about the desert environment, mangroves, the role of sequestration, coastal protection, talk about pollinators to not only young students, but also their parents, their teachers, and adults coming in and learning. And there's an appetite. People want to know more. And I think that's the empowering part of education. From our side, we are very grateful for the Ministry of Education for engaging with us and other incredible, social enterprises and organizations. We work a lot with Abdul Al Ghurair Foundation. We have 2 programs. One is about greening communities all over the UAE. We organize events that are free to attend for any age. It's really for the community. And another one specifically for students called Takwin, and it's in Arabic. So again, trying to, overcome the challenge of language to try to give this education also in Arabic. So things are happening, and the education is there. So it's about making sure this happens at a global level as well. But I will consider you, and the next time I will go to a green event to be a guide for everyone and explain what it means, because I felt it was somehow missing in the green zone for someone to guide you through all that content and all those pavilions, because it was a lot.
I don't know if I can be a tour guide in my next career, but I think there are other people better at doing that. But when it comes to talking to the right age, kind of your audience, knowing your audience is important, but kids can surprise you with their questions as well.
Yeah.
And I'm not one for sugarcoating it. Like my kids, if they ask me, well, why is that happening? I kind of just quite answer it for age 10 and 8. But so if they do ask, why isn't it happening? They do ask me questions like, why isn't renewable energy happening as quickly as we need it to? Why is the world still using more oil and gas? And I explain it because there's lots of businesses who make money from it. And when a business makes money from it, they want to keep making money from it because that's what they're used to making money from. So if you're an oil and gas company, you've shown your shareholders you can make record profits in the last 2 years.
Why not?
To get them to transition away from that good thing is going to be a challenge. Now they've signed up to this now. Countries have signed up to it. Is that going to happen fast enough? That's the big thing. It needs to be tracked. It needs regulation. It needs investment. It needs, a whole host of areas. So, but yeah, sorry, I've changed the topic, but I think it's also about being real with kids as well, I feel.
Well, they are the ones who
Yeah.
would demand for change, right?
Yeah.
And that's maybe also one of the biggest trigger to the large corporations to finally have millions of people around the world asking them to change,
Yeah.
rather than just a few activists.
Yes, true. Yeah, well, I'm hopeful, the kids and the education that they're getting in this country, that they'll it's a very multicultural place here, yeah, and even I'll just go back to that tour. We had kids from all over the world on this tour, and, from different schools, and it was just because they were friends, and some of them are colleagues, and so and they brought their, and they were multicultural families brought together around the COP, and that's like a mini COP in itself, to have that mixture of cultures. And in the UAE, we're lucky to have that. That dialogue needs to happen and keep happening.
Yeah.
So it's good that you're working on this kind of green education program with the Ministry of Education, because we need to see that being translated through to the curriculum, and how, STEM is taught, text in English if they're learning English at school. Are there eco kind of books that they can read as part of their kind of studies? It doesn't have to be something that requires a specific strand of curriculum. It's how you mainstream it through the curriculum that's important.
I think there's also a very strong signal. The fact that the Undersecretary of the Ministry of Education has actually become our new Minister of Climate Change and Environment, I think is a strong sign of wanting to bring and grow the aspect of education within climate change and environment, and to bring the educational aspect. So I really liked to see Her Excellency Dr. Amna coming on board as the new minister. Yeah,
that's great to see, actually. I haven't met her personally, so obviously those ministers always change. So the past minister, Her Excellency Mariam, did a great job in that role. But look forward to seeing how Dr. Amna brings her own personal kind of flavor to climate action here and environment, because her portfolio is bigger than just climate.
We have a lot of things to look forward to.
And there's a youth champion. That's the UAE innovated a youth climate champion, didn't it? So hopefully that's something that the COPs will continue. Yeah. I'd love to see one day one of these, a plenary where the countries have a youth person who is the spokesperson for the countries in these plenaries at the COP.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. And, just run it by youth, what they feel is, if that GST text was run by a little youth panel, what would they think about it?
Yeah.
Can that feedback be taken on mandatorily? You have age 10 upwards in that youth panel. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? 10 to 18 years old, and give them a chance to scrutinize the text and provide their feedback. Maybe pretty different. They have a stake.
They do.
Don't they? So
who knows? But thank you so much, Tanzeed. It's been such a pleasure, and I could continue talking with you really for another hour easily. I've learned a lot, so I really appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll do another one soon. But good luck with your work, and we really hope to see a lot of positive things coming for the UAE and for the rest of the world.
Great. Thanks so much, Tatiana. It's really good. And we at Earth Matters are ready to support any organisation who's wanting to take a positive step in this direction. We do our best to support you.
As always. Yeah. Thank you, Tanzeed.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining me today for this bonus episode with Tanzeed Alam and our final episode of our COP28 series. Forward Talk is brought to you by Goumbook in partnership with Mastercard and with the support of the Dubai Government Media Office. I'm Tatiana Antonella Beya, and this episode was produced by Anuradha Bhattacharya, Samantha K. Roos, and Chirag Desai. See you again soon.